I feel so awkward right now in front of the camera. It's a phone. It's a phone. We all know it's a phone. I don't know why I'm calling it a camera. It's a phone. Before we get into the meat of this video, I just wanted to say a few things. I know I've been gone for a while, which I feel like I say at the beginning of every single one of my videos. I have good reasons. I made a whole video about the reasons with a little bit more detail, but I'll give you the bullet points. COVID, spine surgery. I feel like that's really all I need to say, but also now I'm moving. There's a lot going on, as per usual. The wall is the same. I'm gonna add to the wall. I am moving now, so like this setup is gonna change a little bit, but I want to keep the wall because I like it and I have so many ideas for it. I am gonna expand the wall. I'm gonna change a few things that I don't quite like about the wall. The last thing I want to say before I start the video, so I don't get a bunch of comments about it, I have this is a heart monitor. It's temporary. It's only gonna be on for 2 weeks, but I just wanted to say it before someone asks. For the most part, I think it's covered by my hair. Okay, I'm done. Moving on. Part 1. Superstition and urban legend often go hand in hand, and whether you believe in them or not, both serve as a warning. Don't pick up hitchhikers, don't do sexy sin in the forest, don't walk under ladders, cross your fingers, knock on wood. And again, whether you believe or not, you'll find yourself doing these things, or more importantly, not doing these things. But a few weeks ago, as I was watching Jordan Peele's The Candyman, I realized that superstition and urban legend had another common partner in crime: mirrors. There are countless urban legends and superstitions involving mirrors. But my question is why? Why do we call the faces in mirrors, and why is there so much superstition around them? This video came about because of the Candyman, so you probably expect me to start there. However, on a bummer note, the Candyman isn't a real urban legend. It was created for the sake of the movies, and it is a combination of urban legends such as Bloody Mary and the Hookman. While I do have a lot of appreciation for the Hookman and its roots in like a true story, Bloody Mary is more the speed of this video. Like all urban legends, Bloody Mary has many different iterations of the story and the ritual. And who can we thank for that? Oh, it's just the star of my last video, FOAF. For scientific purposes, I would really appreciate it if in the comments you wrote what version of the Bloody Mary ritual or the urban legend that you heard and just like the state you were in when you heard it, because I just think that would be really interesting. The basics are: say Bloody Mary into a mirror between 3 and 13 times, and there she shall appear to scream at you, strangle you, or scratch your eyes out. It's generally one of those 3. The origins of who Bloody Mary is, or the Bloody Mary ghost, is a little muddy, but folklorists have come up with around 3 good answers. First being Queen Mary Tudor of Ireland and England, who shares the same nickname, Bloody Mary, a nickname she earned for having around 300 Protestants killed for heresy. The second is Elizabeth Bathory, a Hungarian countess who allegedly bathed in the blood of virgin women to keep herself young. However, I feel like this one lines up closer to legends like the Umpire, or Umper, depending on where you're saying it. And it's the one that I find like the least probable. And finally, the one I find the most probable, Mary Worth, a supposed witch who was burned at the stake. The witch explanation makes the most sense to me because it brings in the name Mary Worth. Early iterations of the ritual, you were to chant Mary Worth between 3 and 13 times rather than Bloody Mary. In American Children's Folklore by Simon J. Bronner, published in 1988, he mentions in his notes on the text that Bloody Mary is simply a variation of the Mary Worth rituals. Also interestingly, in this book, he interviews children about the Bloody Mary or Mary Worth rituals. In one interview, he was told by a child that the Mary Worth ritual came from the little girl named Mary Worth who was murdered behind their elementary school, which really just lines up with just how we create urban legends. Still, in this version, the description stays the same. A young girl appears in the mirror with long black hair, pale skin, and blood running down her face. Before we analyze Bloody Mary any further, we need to talk about a few other urban legends / rituals involving mirrors. Similar to the ritual of Bloody Mary is the ritual of Baby Blue Eyes, or Blue Baby Blue. This is one I had personally never heard of before, and holy shit, what the fuck? For this ritual, you are to go into a bathroom, close the door, turn off the lights, You know the deal. This is where it gets interesting. You are to hold your arms like you're cradling a baby. I hope you can see it on camera, can you? I'll do it like this. You are to hold your arms like you're cradling a baby. There's something to be said about hearing an urban legend as an adult rather than hearing it for the first time as a child, and that's what this is a result of. Should I get a baby? Do we need a baby for this demonstration? And rock them back and forth and say, baby blue, blue baby, into the mirror 13 times. And as you do this, your arms are to get heavier and heavier. And this next part really got me. After completing your 13, baby blue, blue baby, you are to then throw the baby in the toilet and flush it and run out of the bathroom before his mother appears and screams, "Give me back my baby." And if you don't do this, if you don't flush the baby, she'll kill you. Just feels like there's a lot to unpack here that I don't have the time to get into today. It doesn't have a good spooky origin story, but it does have a good story to tell your most anxious friend before sending her into the bathroom to do a nervous breakdown ritual. There isn't much to say about Baby Blue Eyes because there is no known origin and there are no like scholarly essays written about it. I just wanted to mention it to have a little bit of fun, honestly, because I had never heard it before and it was different enough from Bloody Mary, and it was also a mirror ritual. The last urban legend to analyze before we move on is ghost portals through mirrors. Legend being, if you face two mirrors at each other, it creates a ghost portal, from which ghosts can travel from one mirror to another. But some might not pass through at all. Some might stay in between and haunt the room you're in. The major themes of mirror urban legends and superstitions seem to revolve around the soul and death. But where did these beliefs begin?
Please tell me you didn't drag Sean into this.
I did not drag Sean into this.
Who's that?
I think you know.
Narcissus's mother was told by a seer that he would live a long and happy life provided he never saw his own reflection. Of course, when Narcissus did see his own reflection in the water of a fountain, he fell in love with himself and never moved from that spot, dying there. It is believed that this myth came from two ancient Greek superstitions. First being that it was unlucky or fatal to see your own reflection. Another theory is it comes from the Greek practice of katoptromancy. Katoptromancy, a practice of scrying or telling the future using the reflection of mirrors or a body of water, particularly for sick people. The reflection would show you if you would recover or you would see a face of death or a sign of death, letting you know you wouldn't recover. This is the first mention I could find of seeing death in a mirror or in a reflection. Mirrors have a long history of being used for divination, prophecy, and scrying. The practice of scrying using a silver chalice was actually mentioned in the Bible in Genesis chapter 44. I give you the full story, but I've served my time when it comes to the Bible. Good news, it's all on the internet, the whole thing. Just Google Genesis chapter 44, you'll get there. Similarly, in the Shahnameh, or the Book of Kings written by Persian poet Ferdowsi, which is actually one of the longest epic poems written by one author and was written between 977 BCE and 1010 CE. The Book of Kings celebrated many influences of Persian culture and is full of juicy, juicy myths. So, I'm just eating that shit up. One Persian myth being the cup of Jamshid. The cup was possessed by the great rulers of Iran. It was filled with an elixir of immortality and was used for scrying. It was said that the whole world was reflected into it and it would reveal deep truths. To bring us back to more traditional mirrors, the Brothers Grimm Tale 53 includes an evil queen asking her magic mirror, "Who's the fairest of the land?" A beautiful woman with snow-white skin appears. Rituals imitating scrying became a consistent player in folklore and, of course, urban legends. A ritual similar to katoptromancy became popular with teenage girls in the 18 and 1900s. With no light but a candle, a young girl would walk up the stairs backwards to a mirror. If they were lucky, when they looked into it, they would see their future husband. Or if they were unlucky, they would see a skull or the warped face of death, signaling they would die before they were married. Mirrors are an incredible reminder of how folklore, superstition, and religion are all kind of intertwined. I think we've all heard that breaking a mirror can cause 7 years of bad luck, and we can thank the Romans for that one. The Romans believed that life was renewed every 7 years. So if you broke a mirror, it would bring 7 years bad luck until life or the soul were renewed. As mirrors became more polished and widespread, so did the myth and lore surrounding them. The Romanians were one of the first to begin covering mirrors after a death. They covered mirrors in black canvas so the recently deceased didn't see themselves in the mirror and get trapped there. Jewish Kabbalists covered mirrors because they believed demons would come for the mourners through the mirror. This one's gonna be a little convoluted, so stick with me for a second. In the Middle Ages, Slavic people would have a belief seen in many cultures that proper burial was important for the soul. If the body was walking around after death, like say a vampire or a zombie, the body could not be buried properly, and if the body was not buried properly, the soul would be lost. This inspired a very popular vampiric trope in 1897 when Bram Stoker's Dracula was first published. This being the very first piece of media in which you could not see a vampire's reflection. Why? Because they had no soul. All the way up into the Victorian era, mirrors and windows were covered after someone died so they didn't get trapped there. And that was separate from religion. Many religions to this day still cover mirrors after somebody dies. And I could go on. Every culture has their own version of mirrors versus souls. But why? Why do we believe so heavily in ghosts and souls getting trapped in mirrors? Why do we keep playing mirror games, and why do we keep spreading these urban legends? Every belief, be it religion or not, has to come from somewhere. We can believe in something for hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years, because one dude a long time ago saw something. Because people must see things in mirrors. Have you ever been laying in bed at night and you can't sleep and suddenly you see something resembling a person or a face in the shadowy darkness of your room? Let me introduce you to pareidolia. Pareidolia is defined as the tendency to perceive a specific, often meaningful image in a random or ambiguous visual pattern, or the human ability to see shapes or make pictures out of randomness. Kong Lee at the University of Toronto, Canada, has explained that our imagination has a powerful influence over our perception. In the BBC article Neuroscience, Why Do We See Faces in Everyday Objects? Kong Lee explains, although we tend to think our eyes faithfully report whatever is in front of us, the retina records an imperfect and confusing image that needs to be tidied up by our brains. In one experiment, Lee showed participants a grainy picture resembling TV static. 34% of participants saw a face staring back at them. One way the brain makes sense of this mess is by making predictions about what we will see based on our past experiences, and then subtly projecting those expectations onto what we see. This way, it can piece together a clearer picture, even if the scene is obscured by poor lighting or, say, fog. But it also makes our vision more subjective than you might think. In a sense, you really do see what you want to see. Your brain does this in daylight constantly. Every time you see a face in a car or a building, or you see something in the little bumpies on your wall. It's this ambiguous pattern that your brain fills in so it's more recognizable to you. And it's only worse in the dark or in dim lighting when your brain has more ambiguous shadows to play with. In the same BBC article, they discuss scientists in Finland who found that religious people are more likely to see faces than atheists, suggesting that, in an attempt to make sense of fears, we personify them, filling the world with gods and demons. I would expand on that and say that perhaps religion isn't the only people that are more likely to see faces. Perhaps someone like me who isn't religious but believes in ghosts might be more likely to see faces rather than a skeptic or boring person. Folklorist Simon J. Bronner, who I brought up in part 1, who wrote American Children's Folklore, mentions something very interesting. When talking about Bloody Mary, he mentions that children, in his words, mostly young girls, would huddle in dimly lit or dark bathrooms and really had to believe in her or she wouldn't appear. Believing is seeing. If your imagination is running wild in your head, Your brain will use that to make sense of the imperfect image given by your retina and build the thing you see staring back at you in the mirror. And that's where I believe all the superstition and folklore come from as well. Mirrors are relatively mysterious things. Before pictures, they were the only thing that could capture the world. But before mirrors were polished, they were blurry, distorted, riddled with movement, and flawed. If we see things in perfect, polished mirrors due to pareidolia, imagine what they saw in early reflections in shitty mirrors. And as we know, religion, myth, and folklore are all used to explain the unexplainable. Thank you for watching. Definitely let me know what version of Bloody Mary you heard in the comments, or maybe you grew up with baby blue eyes. That is even more interesting to me. Definitely tell me that too. Follow me on Instagram, that's where you can find video updates, but I also post video extras, so just anything I cut out of this video or anything dumb I said. Bloopers, it feels weird to say bloopers, but like me fucking up talking or just saying other things. So follow me on Instagram. I am private, but everybody gets accepted. I don't know what else to say at the end of this video, but I'm very excited I made another video. So I guess I'll just say, I'm cleverhaunts, and I guess that's it.